Sadly, last year, when our baby was only 3 months old, my wife passed away. Even though it was really challenging to get through, my young daughter and I are holding it together. My wife's sister has been under pressure to allow her side of the family to visit my 16-month-old kid. The problem is that my wife hasn't seen her family in 16 years. She hasn't had any communication with them since she was 18. She was usually disturbed when she talked about her home situation, therefore she avoided doing so. I didn't press her to tell me, therefore. All I know is that they were abusive and manipulative in one way or another. After changing her last name and leaving as soon as she turned 18, she never spoke to them again. She contacted her elder sister 4 years ago, and my wife has only permitted her to be in our lives. By that, I mean we never really met in person. Instead, we met via video chat. We met a few times prior to and at my wife's funeral, and we continued to communicate following her death. A few weeks ago, my sister-in-law gave me a call. She added that her parents wanted to start again and would greatly like to meet their granddaughter. They knew my wife wouldn't want them to be there, so they skipped her burial. My wife was very clear that she never wanted them to be around our daughter. When I told my sister-in-law this, she became very irate. She admitted that her parents were terrible individuals, but it had been years. I won't go into detail about what they did precisely, but losing their daughter made them think about things, and since my wife never given them the chance, they want to see my kid. She continues to attempt to persuade me, but I've turned her down each time. My wife requested it, so even though I feel awful for turning them down, I still do. I'm very convinced my sister-in-law may have alerted her folks about my Facebook presence. Numerous messages have begged me to introduce my kid to her mother's side of the family, saying that I should keep her grandparents a secret because of their previous transgressions. They won't leave me by myself. Several times, my sister-in-law has told me that although I may be grieving the loss of my wife, I should have some compassion for them in their loss of a child since, at the moment, I'm being too cruel to not give them the opportunity to meet the only remnant of my wife that they have left. I'm not sure if I'm being an a-hole or not, and I'm at my wit's end over this. My wife's complete reason for never wanting to see them again is unknown to me. But even if I did, I would still prefer to respect her request. But it's difficult to ignore how they're acting when I wonder if I am. Before you read the update, here are the most popular comments. I think about my late wife and what she would have wanted every single day. It would be best to keep your daughter away from her family because they seem toxic. I'm sure the family would act in the same manner here if they truly didn't go to the burial in order to honor her wishes. Never allow them to come close to your daughter. OP, consult an attorney. Grandparents may be entitled to certain rights at the death of a parent. Don't even respond. Saying nothing is often preferable to not responding at all. You must defend your daughter in the same manner that your wife defended herself. You are aware of nothing but their deceitful behavior. However, if your wife's family is brought up, she can become very agitated. Imagine the trauma she endured as a result. It's possible that her sister protects them because she was used as a scapegoat. In any case, also cut off communication with the sister. That she stays in touch with you because she genuinely cares about her nephew or niece from Second Life, or because she perceives a window of opportunity to let her parents in. What if, after the factor that didn't want them passed away, you met a sister and all of a sudden noticed 2 older individuals with her? You cannot get away from them. The fact that they suddenly desire to be a part of your lives is not a coincidence. The sister, who has presumably given them access to a wealth of information and pictures you may have provided with her, served as a conduit for their already present desire to inseminate themselves. Now, this sister-in-law is standing up for her parents in their battle. It's also horrifying that neither she nor your wife gave them a clear explanation of your wife's request for no contact. She is going beyond limits on both sides. You've seen who she really is. So trust her and ignore her. Not indulge. Keep them away from your daughter at all costs. Allowing them to develop a relationship with their daughter is the last thing you want to happen. After a while, you'll see exactly why your wife didn't want to be involved. because they may pursue grandparents' rights based on where you live and whether they have a relationship with your daughter. They don't now have any justification. Cut off your sister-in-law as well. She's only introducing you to the poisonous nature of your wife's relatives. Defend your offspring. I appreciate the guidance. It's simply been so difficult to have everything on my plate, let alone this whole issue. Whatever the cause was for my wife to sever all communication with them, I want to be able to respect her choices. Now for the update. I want to thank each and every one of you for your kind words and encouragement. I was quite exhausted from the entire experience, so I greatly valued your advice. Many of you voiced your worries about the intentions of my wife's family and cautioned me about the need to take safety measures for my kid. Taking this into account, I've taken the necessary precautions to make sure they don't have access to any information that would reveal our whereabouts. Indeed, I ultimately concluded that it was best to break off all communication, along with her sister as well as my wife's parents. I repeatedly attempted to communicate to her why I would like to honor my wife's decision in this matter, since she was the one who knows her family the best. That wasn't very convincing to me, since even after all the assurances that her parents had changed, she wouldn't truly tell me what had happened. In the days that followed, I blocked every number I was receiving calls from. I texted her sister one last message telling her not to come near me or my daughter and that I would call the police if they ever tried to bother us. Since then, there has been a radio quiet for the past 2 weeks, although a few days ago, I changed my phone number out of caution. Since I don't use Facebook very often, I've also deleted it. However, I've kept my other social media accounts private. I truly appreciate all of the wonderful advice I've received regarding how to make sure they have no access at all to my baby. As my daughter gets older and enters school, I've kept a few of these remarks in case I need any additional advice. I feel like I can breathe at last, having caught contact since my last post. You have no idea how demanding and exhausting the entire process was for me, therefore I sincerely appreciate your assistance. I feel more at ease now that I've moved past everything and am concentrating on my adorable little child. Since I know there was a lot of worry about how this would all work out, I just wanted to provide this update. Again, thanks, strangers on the internet. They were already bringing a lot of negative energy into your life, without you or your daughter's involvement, so you know you made the right decision. You have no idea how exhausting and difficult the entire experience was for me. Truly, truly, truly true. God, only after I shut them out entirely did I realize how tired it really was. Tell me you have a strategy and a will in case something untoward occurs to you, please. These folks have proven to be dishonest, which worries your youngster. Yes, without a doubt. Before my wife died away, we already had one ready. My sister and her husband, who are my daughter's godparents, would take care of her. I'm glad to hear that you were able to resolve the issue, and I recall reading your initial message. The way your sister-in-law was evading questions about what had happened makes me believe that there was a good reason to keep your child away from them, which is why your late wife never told you and maintained no contact. Though there are several options, they are all getting worse. To have peace of mind, it might be worthwhile to dig into it or hire a private investigator if you know whether the police were involved or if other people who knew your late wife might have information. Whatever the case, congratulations on your wise choice. I've considered it, but I'm not sure if knowing what transpired and the specifics of what my wife had to live with in silence would make me feel better or worse. I'm still considering it. Let's go on to the next tale. Is it my fault that I refused to let my sister-in-law return to my house when she laughed about my cat going missing and realized a family member was dying? I invited my brother and his wife, my sister-in-law, over for supper just before I looked down. Our new Inu cat was playful and needed some time to get used to us. We created a small nest in our laundry room for the feline. The room has an external door that we always keep locked and closed. The warmth and darkness of the laundry area were great draws for the cat. Stillness. I showed the cat to my sister-in-law. After that, we headed to the dining room for dinner. Someone on her side of the family called my sister-in-law with heartbreaking news about a dying relative. She was angry. She requested to answer the call in the laundry room. The family member was about to obtain last rites, so when she heard this, she opened Dick's door and stepped outside to get some fresh air, leaving the door ajar. Our cat scurried out of the house. Since then, we haven't seen him. My kids were devastated to learn that their cat had died. I used to think that it was just a part of that existence. My sister-in-law had just had a very distressing call, after all. I wasn't upset with her for feeling so strongly. But she began making jokes about the incident a few months after lockdown began. I implored her to stop, saying that the loss of our cat was upsetting, and she shrugged it off. She hasn't apologized for making jokes about the incident, and I've decided that she won't be allowed to stay in our home any longer. Despite being rather embarrassed, my brother says he doesn't want to become involved. My kids aren't big fans of her, so they don't really care either way. However, she began to complain to other family members, so I have to admit that Reddit Mold banned her from the house until she said she was sorry for her jokes. The top remark is now, "Not deal." That is very bad. What precisely about that experience was funny? She losing a member of her family, or you losing your cat? That's right. The identical question was on my mind. What is the subject of the joke? I can't help but wonder if she opened the door knowing the cat was in the room on purpose because she's laughing about the whole thing. No, deal. I get that she was upset at first, and I don't hold it against her, but I don't understand why she kept making jokes about it after being asked to stop. She's the a-hole for not saying sorry. I'm sorry for your loss as much as hers. Not in a hall. A pet is always a part of the family, especially if there are children involved. While it's not good to make a cat flee, distressing news can help explain the behavior. Making light of it is callous and demonstrates a lack of understanding for the kid's predicament. That would cause me to reevaluate our connection if I were your brother. Do not dehail. What a callous individual. Absent awareness or empathy. Nothing humorous can be said about that circumstance. I find it hard to believe that she doesn't understand that the serious circumstances were the only reason it was pardoned. The last tale is this: am I a bad person for not wanting to spend any more time with my husband's stepsister? My 33-year-old wife, who is married to 34-year-old guy, has a stepsister, 34, whose relationships have all ended in court. She always says it's not her fault, but sometimes that doesn't seem to be the case when the facts are revealed. She treated her spouse horribly while they were married. Laughed at him, screamed at him, and generally made fun of him. She would treat him with disdain and hardly ever let him to go out and enjoy himself. She also feels quite bad about her extreme weight. I've discovered that she's upset that she hasn't given birth to any children yet. My spouse used to tell me that she was the worst, that he loathed her, and how terrible she was when we first started dating. I would advise him to get over it, be kind, and show that he was the bigger guy. It is, after all, a sibling. Since then, they've worked it out. Another issue with my spouse is that he goes wild and starts lying when he's angry. If I don't leave the situation, you won't be able to soothe him. The deception and tantrums become increasingly bizarre. My hubby was upset lately. I believe it was because I promised to clean, but I didn't. He became increasingly agitated and eventually made up accusations that I had kicked him. He also threatened to ruin my life by calling the police and telling them that I had beaten him. This is not what I did. I'll need to make room because that was a frightening circumstance. He went straight to his stepsister. They decided to keep spreading lies. She encouraged him to get a divorce from me and block me on social media to spread the rumor that her information is hazardous and I shouldn't have access to it. Until now, she had never heard of any issues in our relationship from anyone. It was surprising that, instead of giving me the benefit of the doubt, she was happy right away and told him what he needed to do. I had worked hard to build a solid relationship with her. In order to persuade my husband to stop and acknowledge what they were doing, I had to go to my mother-in-law. After that, he told his stepsister and acknowledged telling lies. She claimed it made no difference and didn't alter anything. She may want my husband to file for divorce so that she won't have to go through the family's legal system alone, in my opinion. She warned him not to talk to me and sent him mediators. She encouraged him to hire legal counsel. Since then, she has spoken with him on the phone and has begun fabricating stories about him, such as how cold she finds him. This is untrue. Our common friends have informed me that it is actually the contrary. When I asked his mother, she flatly refused. We can work it out, I've told my husband, but I'm really upset and uncomfortable with his stepsisters since I know she's trying to set us up so he'll leave me. Being near her doesn't bother me in the slightest. I really wouldn't want to be, especially because she is clearly trying to influence my marriage and neither of them has offered an apology for anything. However, my spouse is upset and claims that's not a choice for me. Is it wrong of me to feel that I no longer want to spend dinners and be around his stepsister? You are the A*** hole for attempting to resolve the issue. Why would you continue to wed someone like that? He is the sister's duplicate. I apologize for being so harsh, but really, just respect yourself. Do not break down. But this is where I'm so lost. Your spouse intended to lie to his family, get you arrested for domestic violence, and get a divorce. He hasn't expressed regret yet, and he won't comply with your one request to save the relationship so you won't have to speak with his sister. But you blame his sister for everything, as though she was the one who initiated it all. Am I the A*** hole for not wanting to be around my husband anymore, should be the title of this post instead of Deo. I would no longer be in the presence of a sister. I would not be in the presence of a husband either. Just to be safe, I would make sure I had proof that they had lied and made everything up. It's unsettling to know that your spouse would lie and say such things, and that if you forgive him, it can come back to haunt you. I would flee very far away. Yes, I do. He does that stuff frequently enough for me to start recording when he gets that way. He continues to try to stick to his lies in spite of the recording. 4.